welcome back to the shop. As you can see, we've had a little bit of trouble. This is a parts car that's been sitting back here for a couple of months now. When I got it, I said to myself, not gonna be here for but just a couple of days. I'll strip it this weekend, I'll get rid of it. Sure glad it's still here now, because there's some parts that I had not planned to pull that I'm kind of have to pull now. So let's get this thing winched onto the trailer and we'll talk about what we're gonna do in just a second. Okay, so we got this mess around in the front. I'm going to get this motor. I hope to sell the transmission and some other part, the catalytic converter, some other parts off of it to recoup some costs here. I think this door is okay. I'll get the bumper, I'll get a bunch of stuff, but the part we are mostly after, the most important bit, is that rear suspension beam there. And here's why. We go look, the poor old race car. I got hit so hard that the bumper flung off and folded up under the car, so there's that. This here is what we've got to work on. Obviously that beam is broken right through there, and ripped that wheel back, smashed my new shock, so that's a huge bummer. You know, this is going to be an issue, but we'll get to that in a minute. Mostly right now we're focused on this beam. You can see it's broken clear through here. We got to replace that. So step number one is to get the beam out from under that car. Here's what we're trying to do. We're trying to see if we can make it to the Sark Invitational Challenge. That's in not this weekend, but next weekend. Oh, you can't see me. Not this weekend, but next weekend, so we don't have a lot of time. We're going to be cobbling this thing together. Depending on how the rear beam comes out of this car here, that will decide if we're going to actually make it. So let's get started pulling the beam out of the parts car. If that goes well, we're going to hop and start working on this other car like crazy. More to come on that. Let's just get this car apart. Okay, almost all of the footage of me pulling the beam out of that car over there has been corrupted. Don't know how, don't know why. I'm not a camera guy. Something happened, don't have any of that footage. But what I do have is a fresh, non-race crashed beam and a car that can no longer roll and will probably never roll again, because what's going to happen is they're going to come in and they're going to clamp this car and pull it off the trailer, and that's all there is to it. I also pulled this quarter glass out because, well, naturally, we shattered the one in the race car trying to get the door out, because that's how it goes. In any case, what it's time to do now, what we're going to be working on now, is I have borrowed a Porta-Power and all of its little bits, right there, and we're going to be pushing this whole mess out. I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. I don't know how this works exactly. All I'm trying to do is push it out enough so I can get a wheel back in, because the way the damage happened here, it ain't gonna happen. So, let's just jump in and start working with these series of hydraulic rams and see what we can make happen. I'm kind of afraid that whole section is just gonna have to be cut out anyway, so I'm not gonna spend a lot of time worrying about how to properly do it so that a professional doesn't have extra work later. Let's start pulling. Okay, so I'm saying a whole bunch of things, and basically I've got a mini ram in there, and I started this whole project by immediately blowing out that mini ram. Just don't know what I'm doing. Don't know how it's supposed to work, and there it is. I blew that mini ram out. Now, the important part here is steel actually has a little bit of a memory to it. It wants to be in the shape that it was originally pressed in. And so all you really got to do is find the one specific spot to push on that's going to make it pop back into its original shape. Obviously, it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be pretty close. In addition to that, in a space like this where there's so many body lines coming all together because it's a door jam, lots of crazy stresses get put on the steel when it gets hit this way. So what you also have to deal with is how to relieve that stress. I did basically none of it correctly, but I knew where I wanted to push on. I knew how I wanted to get in there. I just had to make some space, and that's what this whole first section here is me doing, is I'm positioning rams and pumping, and you can see it moving around in there. I'm just trying to make space to get a spreading implement in there to the specific spot I wanted to push on, which is kind of what makes it all come together. Here you can see it's that top section is really coming into play, or coming into place rather pretty quickly. I'm talking about all the stresses and how it's all kind of coming together and all that kind of stuff. But what I really want to do is get at that crease right there in the middle. That's where all the stress is focused, and you can see pushing on that pushes the entire body panel out, and that's the whole point. So we're basically just going to keep cranking. When you see the steel relax like it just did, that's me relieving pressure on the ram. You got to push steel way past where you want it to be for it to land where you want it to be. You got to go way beyond it because it's going to relax significantly. And so here you can see it's really moving. Some wood blocks, a few different types of rams, different shapes and sizes and stuff like that. And this panel really starts to come in pretty nicely. So you can see the spreader that I'm talking about right there behind my knee. You can get that spreader kind of jammed up in there, and we're really going to see that door jamb come back into shape here in just a second. The one thing that I found myself having to be very careful of is based on where I was jamming the spreader, it did open up this panel exactly like I wanted it to, but you got to be really careful because that's right there. What I'm seeing is it's starting to spread the tub out. So there's a body seam between the door jamb on the left and the wheel tub that you see on the right there, and I started to spread that seam open. Not what we want. Really can't have that, and you just gotta watch it. I ended up going back to different rams and stuff like that to try to make a little more space, to try to get a block in there to spread the load out. It was a whole process. There's a bunch of different ram sizes and lengths, and you can see me kind of trying to screw around to just find something that works. I think I ended up going eventually back to the spreader, and it's a really powerful tool. It worked very, very well. And we're just going to keep trying different places and continue to open up this damage a little bit more. So this door jamb folded up like an accordion, and we got to spread it back out. I decided to go for broke. If I hurt it, I hurt it, but we're really coming back into shape nicely. I'm going to get a hammer and some wood out next and see how much better we can make it look. Okay, here's where we are now. I got the hammer out and kind of started to massage some of these rough, well, it's all pretty rough. I got the hammer out and kind of beat on this a little bit to try to fold up some of the edges. Let's go to the other side. We got a lot more space back here now. The fender opening is actually like a shape that a fender opening might be, which is kind of a miracle. I'm super confident that I can fit a wheel back in here now. So my next biggest fear is I won't be able to get a door on the thing, because like this is super rough and I can't actually get in there. I hammered that down a little bit. So that's actually looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy overall with how that looks. And well, I kind of think it's time to turn my attention to the door. I don't really want to put a new door on it because it's just not ready. So I'm going to try to hammer this door out some. And I might even end up just cutting some of this section out. I'm not sure yet. I'm going to start working on this with a hammer and some other stuff maybe. And just kind of see how far I get. It doesn't need to look perfect. It just needs to work. And I think I can probably come in here with some vinyl and just vinyl over it so it's maybe a little bit less noticeable. I don't know. A little bit less noticeable would be really great because I don't want a bunch of questions about this thing when it shows up to the event that I might be going to. It's actually looking pretty good. Obviously the beam is still under there. It should only take me a couple hours, I think, to swap that out. I've done it once now. Maybe I can do it again quicker. I don't know. I would love to get some help on that, so I might be soliciting a little bit of help. Looking okay. I think we're going to make it. In any case, I'm going to call it right there. I'm going to go to hammering on this door a little bit more. But ultimately, you've seen the body work. That's what we're working with. The next step is going to be working on that beam and get that beam out of there. So, with that, I'm going to go and get back to work. I will see you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching. This is a real grassroots effort, in case that wasn't obvious. I'm pretty happy how this is going. I'll see you in the next one.